Hey crew, it's Coach Josh with Garage Gang Gyms. Let's talk about the bench press. So before we even start grabbing the bar out and start pressing it, here's a few tips that we want to talk about. We need to make sure that our feet are nice and solid and constantly pushing through the ground. So that's first. So what I'm thinking about is not just pushing down, right? That's where a lot of people actually make the mistake. We want to feel like it's a leg extension almost. So what I'm doing is, even though it doesn't look like my feet are moving, I'm actually trying to dig my foot through the ground. Then after my legs are nice and tight, keeping them tight the whole time, I'm gonna really get a good amount of breath, a good amount of brace, and you'll be hearing that as I demonstrate some of these reps to you guys. But let's talk about what's actually happening at the bar itself. So a lot of people think of the bench press as just unrack it and start going. Actually, the moment you unrack it, you have set the stage for how well balanced you're actually going to be. So there's a few things we want to talk about before we even unrack it. So our legs are tight, core is tight. Okay. So legs, core, we'll be breathing as we go as well. But what I want to do with my hands first is once I've found my width, which this is something you're going to have to play with, and ideally, we pick a width wide enough that as we lower this bar down, we feel this big stretch come across our chest. Now, if you're a power lifter or you're trying to do this for a competitive sport, that's not what we're talking about. What I want from your bench press is for you to get the most chest engagement we possibly can. We're always preaching efficiency here at Garage Gang Gyms, so we don't want 38 exercises just to work your chest. We want to get in, get out of the gym with the most efficient workout. So your width is really going to play with how much chest engagement you're actually going to have. Okay. So I'm about a thumb knuckle away from the texture here. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to try to take my hand and I'm going to try to bend this bar. What that's going to do, what that's going to do is as I try to bend this bar, you can see how my posture adjusts. I bend that bar, even though my hands won't actually be able to bend it. My lats, my shoulders, they're all going to get set. My shoulder blades are going to get tucked in nice and tight. That's actually going to help lend itself to me bracing down through my core as I do this. So seeing that from the back, again, I'm going to bend this bar. Just notice how much of an engaged back I have. This is, again, going to prevent any excess movement. Now, the next thing, and I'm going to just keep my back to you guys, is I've bent the bar. I'm also going to try to slide my hands apart. Now, I'm not going to be moving like you just saw me doing, but what it is it's like a rear fly. It's going to help activate my rear delts a little bit more just to gain a little bit more stability. Again, our goal is to try to get as much chest stretch as we possibly can as we're doing this bench. And part of that is making sure that our whole back is as engaged as it can be. So we're bending the bar, we're sliding our hands apart. Now, a lot of people miss this on their unrack is their rack height isn't in a good position where they can just pop it with their elbows and pull it over their chest. Some people, they have the rack way too high and they have to like arch in this awkward way to get it, or it's way too low. I actually had a client just recently. I found out he was benching from here and he would actually have to press it off of him and then try to get tight. Again, we're trying to get tight before we actually start benching. So again, legs are tight, doing that leg extension. My ribs are pushing down towards my core, right? My core is nice and tight. My ribs are pushing down towards my hips. I'm bending the bar, sliding my hands. Then what I'm going to do is when I pop this bar, I'm going to pull this bar over my chest as much as I can, okay? So it's very similar to doing a straight arm lat pull down. As you pull those hands closer to your hips, your chest is going to stick up, keeping that rib cage down. You're going to get a lot of back engagement. So I'm bending it, I'm sliding my hands, and I'm going to pull this bar over my chest. Here comes my breath. And you can see that my back is somewhat arched, not anything crazy. As I'm talking to you, I've lost my core engagement, but in a moment I'll regain that so you can see what that looks like. But again, I'm still bending this bar. I'm pulling this bar over my chest. So I'll take my good breath and watch what happens to my posture when I set everything. I'm nice and solid. It's actually hard for me to talk and brace at the same time. Then I'm going to bring this bar down. Still bending the bar, hands are still sliding apart again. My brace is off because I'm talking to you. I'll take that breath again. Re-engage my legs right as I'm about to press, core, and then I'm going to drive that bar straight up. Now, a lot of people get all so technical when it comes to, do I press the bar straight? Do I press the bar up and towards the rack? Technically, we want you to press the bar up and towards the rack. Okay, that's actually going to simulate or mimic as if you're actually trying to push somebody away from you. If you were to actually push somebody away from you, your hands would not go straight. They'd actually come up a little bit. Why? Because if you're pushing somebody away, you're actually trying to knock them back, up and back onto their heels. And it's kind of how we want to do our bench press too. It's not just straight, it's forward and up, right? I'm trying to push something away from me, okay? So I'm bending the bar, sliding my hands, core is tight. There's a lot going on. I'm pulling that bar over my chest. I'm lowering the bar down. And then the last thing we're going to talk about, and I'll show you how this makes a difference, is as this bar is coming down, I'm doing all of those things, fighting to keep my body as stable as possible, core is tight. I'm going to try to actually bring my chest toward this bar without losing this core engagement. So some people actually will let their core go in order to create this huge arch. Again, that we're not trying to be as competitive as possible. We're trying to feel our chest as much as possible. So while keeping my ribs in place, I'm still trying to push my chest out. And just even doing this, if you just do it while watching me do it, ribs are down, I push my chest forward, ribs down, I get already a big stretch in my chest. And what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that my shoulders stay exactly where I want them. Even though I'm pulling my hands and doing all these other things, sometimes they can get in front of us. It's going to help me keep that chest engaged, get this big stretch. And then at the bottom, I'm going to be a lot more solid. And technically, the bar doesn't have to go as far. So again, I'm locking my feet. I'm going to take my breath. I'm just running you through all the cues again. Feet, breath, bend, slide, pull the bar over my chest, take a big breath, brace my core, chest goes up as I'm bracing my core. Right as I'm about to press, I'm going to dig those legs in again, brace chest, boom. Here we go. Now, the tendency is as people push up, it looks something like this. Their shoulders come forward, they miss a cue, and their chest actually caves. This is people not trying to push the bar away from them, and you can see how uneven it is. Trying not to push the bar away from them, but they're just moving the bar. So again, we bend, we lock, we pull, big breath, and my chest stays up the whole time. It never drops. Because if my chest is dropping, I'm losing a lot of chest engagement if my chest caves in. I'm keeping it up, really locking it out. Always making sure that when we re-rack that bar, we're in a place that we can, with straight arms, go straight back into the uprights and then down. If you'll notice, when I make contact, if you look at the end cap here, when I make contact, I'm way up high in these J cups. You can't really see my hand, but I'm way up high in the J cup, right? It's called a J cup because it's the letter J. I hit way up high and then slide it down. Most people, what they're going to try to do is aim for that nook in the J cup, and they'll end up bending their elbows and trying to catch it. You will always miss one of them, and worse, you could miss completely and it could fall on you. It's just not safe. J cups are designed to have kind of a bit of runway. So you run into that runway and straight down. Same deal when you're doing a squat. So again, it's Coach Josh with Garage Gang Gyms. I hope that helps solidify your bench so that you guys can have a big bench, or at the very least, a big, strong chest.